So I'm just going through the YC, the Y Combinator startup school program that they have. It's an online program. I think it's like basically available to everybody. I don't know if there's any thresholds and whether you get into it. I applied, I got in. I don't know. Maybe it's either like super easy to get into, or I've looked into it, it's like either a couple percentage of people that apply get into it, but I don't know, right? So here's my honest view on some of this. I'm a professor of innovation. I've been building out the reciprocity program project uh, for 8 years now. So the idea behind what I'm trying to do is to just make my life easier. Was essentially it. Um, so I got on to, build a platform, put it on the internet. Nobody paid attention. So then I had to go onto YouTube and, you know, po- podcasts, all sorts of different areas, sort of explaining this journey. I'm a PhD. We deal with one of the challenges is like there's a crazy ass emotional journey with doing research. There's tons of lows, like extraordinary amounts of lows. If you're just Google it, you'll find that there's an unbelievable amount of lows, and then every once in a while there's like a high. And it's super hard to find people. It's very, very close to the idea of the whole startup thing. And I think that's where they actually got the imagery from. It was going to grad school, particularly with Y Combinator, and I think it's Paul Graham who started it. I study a little bit of this area, so I kind of teach a little bit about it. But going through the program is actually really quite good. So that's why I want to go with this. It is well laid out in a lot of different ways. I think it's much more laid out for somebody that doesn't really know, that is really blind to understand what's going on. But they spend a great deal of time, and it's super nice. That's what I like. I want to give them kudos and roses. Um, you know, I like the fact that they're doing it and dispelling a whole bunch of myths of what the startup life actually is and what that entails. There's all these like stupid, crazy myths that exist that are just painful, both on the extreme of like, somebody that goes into it that's like early 20 years old, to what you see in modern TV, whether it's Silicon Valley, right? The HBO series, or, or just like, uh, the Social Network. Like those are classic stories that are told, but they're not at all like that. If you were to look it up, and they actually have a really great like founding program. It's actually what I'm trying to find right now is like group of people that are like-minded. So if you're interested, give me a shout. I'm building the reciprocity project, clearly, stipulations in terms of what ownership means and all that kind of stuff. But I'm always trying to build this damn thing out and getting it to work better. Right? That's the story of what this is. And this is where I like what they actually suggest in some of these things. And that is frankly just passion for the user and passion for the problem of solving this particular problem, right? And um it's not what you think it is, right? It's a lot of like um getting up and getting going and trying and doing your best, right? It's ultimately that's what it is. This is where I think that it falls short. It is based on the assumption that you have pretty almost unlimited resources, which in the case of YC, of the accelerator itself, um, they have pretty substantial. So first of all, it's not somebody that's actually invested blood, sweat, and tears themselves into it in terms of um, in terms of monetary value. So that's a key thing so I just ran over with a piece of metal or something like that. I'm hoping the tire pressure doesn't go in. But you know, I think it's almost geared towards people that have pretty either a monetary value does not matter at the beginning, like they're used to living like a student, 20 something year olds, or B, that there is going to be a whole bunch of resources given to them. And in my experience, if you're building something in the real world, right, so it's nice to have access to accelerators and all that kind of stuff, and, funding and all that kind of stuff. But in the real world, it's often not that way, right? In my experience, you're doing this often by yourself. And that's where they have some suggestions that I think are relatively sound, but it's super damn hard, to find co-founders. Super damn hard to find somebody that is just as interested and passionate about what you're doing. The problem for me, the problem of research and the uncertainty of research and the pain of research, not a lot of people understand that unless you live it. And then it's hard because then not a lot of people want to give up their time and resources to solve this thing, right? And that was part of the advantage of doing, once you're in the career for a long time, that is the competitive advantage, is your ability to deal with that. So, that part of it is sound, but super hard. And I don't think people understand. I think people that are in the game, they maybe understand how difficult it actually is, but I think a lot of people underestimate how difficult it actually is to find somebody that's interested in any particular area, right? So you have to get out and find this, like do it, right? Like actually live and breathe it, which is a lot different, right? Like it's not like you're getting up and you're building something. It's like, I gotta make this thing happen. And it's a lot of work, right? Like a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, all that kind of stuff, where you're just doing it because you're passionate about it, right? Like that's why I often talk about on this channel that it's like, it's akin to almost like a hobby, particularly at the beginning, because you're trying to make this damn thing work, right? And you don't know how to make this damn thing work, right? So, I've gotten the Reciprocity Project to pretty substantial influence, but it's still not there, right? Like I still can't make out the monetary side of it, which is really hard to actually do, right? So what I love about this program, the YC Startup Program, is it really talks about just, diminishing some of these silly assumptions that we have. And it's really about getting out there and getting things done and doing things, right? Like getting out and doing it. There is a difference between what you read and, the stories that are told, the myths that are told, and you doing it. And man, that difference is enormous, because when you do it, it looks ugly, right? Like practice. So for me, I'm not in the studio, I've got all these things. I have all these hangups. I think people are like, they're laughing at me, like all those kind of things. Like that is real startup life. That is real what it means. And it's taken me 8 years to get to where I'm at this moment. Nothing's going on here. I don't know why. It's taken me 8 years to get where I'm at, because I'm trying to like, scratch and claw and figure this damn thing out. And, there's a lot of stuff that goes in between all of that, right? And the psychological battle is enormous of dealing with, the psychological battle of you thinking that you're stupid, you're on the wrong path, and how am I doing this? And I'm spending a whole bunch of money on nothing, right? Like all of those things, that's the real game. That's it, right? And until you get there, like you don't get it, right? And I really think the people, I think is Dalton and another fellow, I really think they understand, but they also have had a lot of advantages given to them, in the sense of getting to resources and things like that, that not a lot of people get to, right? The regular startup, you're going to build something, you don't have access to those things, right? Those things are really, 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 really hard to come by. And unless you go through it, this is real life. This is a grind. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm spending my own money. And it's my own money, right? Like when it's that's when you know you're doing the real thing. And that's when you're actually building the real thing, right? So it's a really different story than what is often told, in a lot, because what ends up happening, all right, so what happens, right? So there's sort of two plays that are happening, three plays that are happening. One, come from a wealthy family, you can find friends and family that are wealthy, they're going to give you money, right? Like that happens a lot. The evidence on VC worlds and startup worlds and stuff are very much that way, right? Like if we start looking at the evidence of this. The other thing is, the other thing is that you just get lucky. You get in the right spot, you go to the right school, and all of a sudden, bam, you find the right person, and that luckiness does play out, right? Like you go to Stanford, you meet somebody that's there, boom, like you're in the accelerator program like that, and then you're using somebody else's money. That's a beautiful story, but that does not happen in real life. Like that's such a tiny, tiny, tiny world where that happens, right? And then we have the third, which is everybody. I'm just sick and tired of dealing with this, and I'm just going to do it myself, right? And I'm going to build this thing, come hell or high water, and it's stupid to build this thing, but I'm going to build it anyway. So I'm going to figure out how to build this damn thing, no matter what. That's and on top of it, I have no money. I'm what the hell am I doing? Like all of those things, right? That is startup world. That's the real startup world that people don't see, and that's where it happens in all places around the world. Where somebody just gets sick and tired of dealing with something. For me, I'm sick and tired of dealing with the uncertainty of research and rejection and all of that crap. Like, why can't I build a platform to create non-rejectable research papers and grants, other intellectual property? Maybe, I don't know, but that stuff is incredibly. That's not the story that is often told. Right? Like that, but that is the real story that most people go through. And what's happening is, particularly at accelerators like Y Combinator, for example, they're either they're getting this at the right time, right? They're getting introduced at the right time, and it works out. And somebody's done a whole bunch of work before. Or, you have these lucky situations where you're born into money, or like, no, you may not be born into money, but people that it's usually people are in the same social networks that you can get access to financial resources, or that get the right education, all those kind of things. So my story is, and I think it's probably more along the lines of your story. If you're listening to it, just grind away, right? Like find a way, look at something, realize when there is a lot of people that are upset or they can't figure it out. That is an opportunity, right? Like these are hard problems that are opportunities, and then keep working at them. And the challenge becomes, and I've talked about this before, at what point is it insanity where you're working at something for so long that it becomes absolute insanity? I don't know. Right? There is no right or wrong way, but that's what you do. So, my critique of Y Combinator or the YC startup school, I think it actually does a good job, right? It's get 80% there. It's about 40%. I can't do math. It's about 40% from where it should be, right? If you're thinking about click-through rates, click-through rate, phenomenal click-through rates, 5%, right? So we're at 5% click-through rate with this program. Is it capturing the other 95% of what people go through? No. Is that a problem? No. Is it worthwhile to go through it? I think so. Um, it's just nice to hear that you're not crazy when you're going through things, because the rest of the world does not get it until you actually go through it. You realize that, yep, I feel a little crazy doing this, but I'm going to do it anyways. Anyways, take care and have a wonderful day.